What's up, guys? I'm Chris Spags here, back with another Four Corners video for today's 5-game MLB slate, courtesy of Awesemo.com. It's going to be a tough slate with a lot of choices you're going to have to make to differentiate your lineup from the field, and I just lost my first recording of this video, so help me out. Let's get some positive energy in the air. Like this video right now, and leave a comment down below about which pitcher you think is the most likely one to get blown up today. There's going to be a lot of highly owned guys I'm going to talk about, a lot of guys you're going to have to choose from, so like this video right now, leave a comment or any questions down below, and I will pop in later to talk with you guys. The first corner I want to hit on involves the top owned pitchers on today's slate, and the first guy on the list looks really good. Aaron Nola is going to be the top owned guy everywhere, though, with 56% on DraftKings, 40% expected on FanDuel, and 58% ownership expected on Yahoo. The 3.1 implied runs against him are the best on today's slate, but Nola has been great to start the year with a 1.68 whip and 10.8 hits per 9 allowed. And it's mostly because he's not missing bats with just an 8.4% swinging strike rate. The 27.4% aggregate strikeout rate for the projected Miami lineup should help a bit. I think this face, though, of Aaron Nola in this photo that we're showing right now indicates what it's been like to roster him this year, but this seems like about as good of a bounce back spot, as good of a get well spot for Aaron Nola as you can get. Nola's numbers should trend upwards, and I'm willing to match the field here because I think this is the spot where he gets back on track. Garrett Cole versus Cleveland is going to be the number 2 owned option at pitching today, right behind Aaron Nola pretty much everywhere industry wide. The spot's pretty good for him as well, 3.3 implied runs against, and Garrett Cole's also just been a better pitcher so far in 2019. I think in particular, a swinging strike rate of 15.7% going against a Cleveland lineup, striking out 25% of the time versus right-hand pitching bodes pretty well. And Cole's 50.7% swinging strikeout rate is actually the number 1 on the slate as well, so that's worth pointing out. There is some positive regression due for the top of the Cleveland order. Francisco Lindor, who just got back in there, Jose Ramirez, they seem like they're really due to bounce back at some point. But I think right now it looks like a good spot for Garrett Cole. I don't mind coming close to the field on him, though I actually would prefer Nola today. Rick Porcello going against Detroit should be the number 3 owned option everywhere industry-wide today. He gets 3.8 implied runs in his favor from Vegas, and the 25.6% aggregate K rate in Detroit's projected lineup looks pretty good. Porcello's been awful so far in 2019 with a 2.41 whip, 14.8 hits per 9 allowed, a 7.7% swinging strike rate, and a 21.8% chase rate. Those are all amongst the lowest on the slate. So Porcello may just not have it to start the year. Maybe he's hurt. I don't know. I don't mind going against him with Detroit here. I think if you want to have some Porcello exposure, it's fine. Again, the Vegas hold does back it out. There will be strikeouts in that Tigers lineup, but I don't think he's a safe play today, and I certainly want to match the field on where he's going to be. The next corner I want to hit on are the top stacks of the day, and a Boston stack going against Jordan Zimmerman. It's going to be the highest owned one, but also looks like the best one to me. They have 5.7 implied runs in their favor from Vegas, and that means that it's a good spot here for everybody pretty much. It's going to be ownership for everyone except Sandy Leone, it looks like, but guys like Mookie Betts, JD Martinez are likely the strongest options. And I do think everyone from Andrew Benintendi down to Michael Chavis is stackable because Zimmerman's been giving up a 4.9% home run rate to both sides of the plate dating back to last year. Zimmerman just not a great pitcher. This Boston Red Sox lineup due for some positive regression, due to get back on track. I think this is a good spot for them, and I like going to the stack quite a lot tonight. A Texas stack going against Marco Gonzalez is actually going to be pretty decently owned today, despite just 3.7 implied runs in their favor, but the ownership is mostly coming for the top 5 because of decreased pricing across the board for those guys. Again, it's a cheap stack versus Gonzalez, who doesn't strike guys out. It's 5.9 Ks per 9 so far in 2019, but Texas has been brutal versus left-hand pitching with a 213 batting average on the year and a 25.1% strikeout rate, so not a spot I'm dying to get to Texas. I think the ownership on Texas seems easy for me to fade right now, but overall, if you want to have some exposure, I don't mind it because they are cheap and Gonzalez isn't a great pitcher. And a Miami stack going against Aaron Nola is also going to be pretty highly owned with 10.7% aggregate ownership expected, with people trying to leverage against Nola, who again is going to be the highest owned pitcher on the slate. I'd be more inclined for a one-off like Curtis Granderson or Brian Anderson versus Nola, but to me this seems in general more like a get-well spot for Nola, a spot for him to get back on track. I'm not dying to go against him a ton, even though, again, it's baseball, there's a ton of variance. It does make sense if you want to have some Marlins against Nola just as a hedge stack. The next corner I want to hit on are going to be the lower owned options on today's slate, and Trevor Bauer going against Houston certainly fits that criteria. Again, he's not as appealing of a spot for him as it is for Garrett Cole on the other side, or for Aaron Nola going against Miami. But Bauer's strikeout stuff is potent enough to consider versus any lineup. And again, he's going to be at far less ownership than Nola, Cole, and Porcello, who again, I really don't like that much. So I think going to Bauer could be an interesting play here. Houston, obviously a very dangerous lineup you can get to him, but I think Bauer does have the stuff to do some damage, and he's just not going to be owned. A Mariner stack going against Taylor Hearn also interests me here. 4.8 implied runs in their favor. They're going against an emergency call-up who's barely pitched even in AAA. He did pitch in AA. He's been an okay guy. He's had good strikeout stuff, but he also walks guys at a decent clip. And Seattle's been mashing left-handed pitching with a 386 on-base percentage, 282 batting average, a 295 ISO in 2019, and nobody over here is expected for over 10% ownership because these guys are priced up quite a bit. So again, it's not a comfortable stack to get to because the price for these guys is just really high for a lineup that isn't that great in terms of a numbers basis, but they performed well in the year, so I don't mind some exposure here because Hearn may not be ready for the bright lights of the major leagues. Caleb Smith going against Philly is also going to be a lower owned pitching option, who interests me quite a bit. He's got 4.5 implied runs against him, which is not great, but Smith's been filthy so far this year with a 0.87 whip, 2.94 xFIP, 11.4 Ks per 9, and 14.5% swinging strike rate. Again, that's up there with pretty much everybody in the league. This Philly team does pose pose some danger to him, but Smith's been really good where I don't mind going him. Again, just to differentiate from a lot of Nola, a lot of Cole, and a lot of Porcello out there. And speaking of Porcello, I don't mind going with the Tiger stack against him today. The one-off plays of guys like Nick Castellanos, Miguel Cabrera, or Nico Goodrum may be more logical. Porcello looks like the best owned pitcher to leverage against. Again, he's going to have ownership on him, and I think he can get blown up because he's been so bad this year. And the Tigers do have some power, do have some guys who can make contact, so I don't hate stacking against them, even though, again, I might slightly prefer the one-offs. And speaking of one-offs, the last corner I want to hit on today are the one-offs I like the most on today's slate. The first one-off I want to talk about is JD Martinez going against Jordan Zimmerman. I talked before about how Zimmerman's just a bad play, but overall, he's a bad play versus both sides of the plate. He is slightly worse, though, versus lefties, but he's still really bad versus righties, which is more appropriate to talk about with JD Martinez. And he's given up a 39.4% hard contact, 4.6% home run rate, and just 7.4 Ks per nine versus righties. So that makes JD Martinez and Mookie Betts both look particularly strong to me. Again, you can go a variety of ways with this Boston lineup, but Martinez and Betts are both two guys who I'd like a lot as one-offs. I talked about the Mariners stack, but Mitch Haniger going against Taylor Hearn is super interesting to me. He's got a 330 batting average, a 415 on-base percentage, and a 161 WRC plus versus left-hand pitching going back to last year. He's also expected to be in the leadoff spot, which certainly adds a boost. He's insanely overpriced on DK, but that'll keep his ownership down, so if you can afford to get him, I think Haniger's an interesting play because really nobody wants to pay that much for Mitch Haniger, even though it is a good spot here. As I said in yesterday's Four Corners, Mike Trout's always a guy to consider as a one-off, but going against Masahiro Tanaka is a really nice spot. Trout was basically the only guy to not have a big day in the Angels stack yesterday, and Tanaka does give up a 4.8% home run rate, as well as 41% hard contact to righties. People have been down on Trout recently, and again, that performance yesterday probably didn't help as everybody else got going, but Trout's still doing the same stuff, still has a great on-base percentage, still making a ton of great contact, so I think it's a good spot for him to get back on track versus a guy in Tanaka who does give up some righty home runs. So there we go, those are my thoughts on today's slate. So like the video right now and leave a comment down below. Tell me which pitcher you think is going to blow up. We had some good success yesterday. A lot of people were tweeting me about the John Means pick, which I'm grateful for. Happy birthday, John Means. You made me look like a smart person for once, so thank you for that. But otherwise, please keep the support going, like the video, and comment down below about which pitcher you think is most likely to blow up today. And of course, use the promo code SWITCHINHEADS to get half off your first month of any package at Osmo.com. Get an MLB package, get all of Osmo's ownership projections and projections themselves. You can plug right into Fantasy Cruncher, which is also included in any package with half off the first month. So go ahead, use that promo code SWITCHINHEADS right now to get half off your first month of any Osmo.com package. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another Four Corners video, so good luck.